motorcycles.
I did hear you try
It scared
that.
the hell out of me.
Yeah, me too.
Motorcycle, yeah.
Me too.
Live
But I'm
vicariously
learning.
through a man.
Okay.
All right, we go.
Okay, we'll call to order the regular city council meeting of October 11th, 2021. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Here.
Salvia,
Here.
Albrecht,
Here.
Harrison,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Sage.
Here. Thank you. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome, everybody, on this beautiful summer night in October. So welcome. So first, we're going to have public comment scheduled, non-scheduled presentations. Brian, are you there? Is there anybody here?
Hi, I am here, and I'm not seeing any public comment.
Okay, very good. Next on to approval of the minutes is a consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 27th, 2021.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson. Support. Support by Councilmember Sage. Councilmember Albrecht.
I support the minutes, but I'd like to request that the clerk add a summary to item 4A from our meeting with DTE at the last meeting. Not everything verbatim, of course, but just a summary so that our citizens, residents can understand what we talked about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Very good.
Also, Your Honor, Councilmember Salvia had a correction to item 10A, in that she would like the amount, the $695,000 amount of the ARPA funds noted, so I will do that as well.
Very good. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is an approval of the consent agenda. First is a consideration of a special event application from the PSD to hold Kringle Market on December 3rd and 4th. The market will be held on West 4th between Main and Walnut. So Christmas is back in Rochester. B is review the current special event calendar, and C is to authorize the police department to purchase Clemis live screen fingerprint equipment from IDE MIA using the Oakland County Cooperative bid pricing. This price of this project is $16,712.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson, support by Councilmember Albrecht. Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Thank you. Question for the chief on the Kringle Market, item A. I think I probably know the answer to this. Is there any way we can expand the area for this event? You know, it was noted in the write-up that it typically gets pretty crowded. I think it's been studied, you know, can we go along Walnut? Is there anything else we can do to provide more space for that event?
Chief?
Yes, we have looked at this in a number of ways. However, trying to get out into Walnut creates some other traffic problems in, access to the deck itself, getting in and out of that, and also some concerns for some other businesses, the funeral home, parking lot at Chase, things of that nature. So we have looked at it. We just haven't figured out a way to do it safely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because I think 2 years ago it was a big success, but it was very crowded.
Chaos.
Okay. Next on, we do not have any old business.
We need to vote.
Well,
We have to vote here, is that?
Once in a while.
Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we do not have any old business or table items, public hearings, or legislative deliberations, so reports on regular business. First, consideration of a service agreement addendum for the community garden between Dinosaur Hill and the city of Rochester. Mr. City Manager?
I'll start off, but I see Marcy's queuing up, probably her presentation. So Marcy's been the staff person along with our
famous Nick Banda, who's worked on the tree portion for the forestry component. So, Marcy, I don't know if
Marcy, you're famous as well,
yes.
so welcome.
Infamous, maybe.
Oh, huh.
Should I pull it up? I don't know if I have the rights, Brian.
Brian might need
Yep,
answers.
you're all set.
Okay. Let's see. I can get to it
So-
quickly.
So really, Brian is in control of all
Yeah,
this
Brian
meeting,
is the
right?
controller.
Be nice to the tech people.
I was gonna say, it's like
Always.
yeah, it's like the IT directors
Yeah,
and whatnot. Yeah.
Okay, can you, let's see if you can see this.
Yep.
Can you see
Yes.
this on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, so what you have before you is the request to consider the service agreement between the community garden, Dinosaur Hill, and the city of Rochester. So the previous agreement, in the memo, it references May 2012, the actual agreement, and that's the agreement between the city of Rochester and Dinosaur Hill Preserve. But the agreement on the community garden is 2011. So, and that was in your packet as well. The budget impact for this service agreement is $1,250. And the big change in the agreement would be the clarification that Dinosaur Hill would be paying for $10 per garden plot for those plots sold, with a minimum of $1,250 for the services provided by the Department of Public Works, including landscaping, refuse, yard waste, and disposals, and water usage. So as we move through sections, pages 2 and 3, that this is the actual agreement that we're asking council to deliberate upon. And then I don't know if you would like me to go through all of this. You
Maybe,
can tell me this is the background.
I was gonna say, maybe just your PowerPoint that's probably about 1 or 2 more pages. Yeah,
Sure.
there you go.
Council has previously approved the garden renovation plan during this budget cycle. That's slated to begin in November, this coming month. This is the current condition of the garden. The proposed plan, I don't know if you can see this, but the proposed plan is to expand it and to offer more. Right now, we have 142 plots. We're hoping to get 160 with the changes that are illustrated here. We also are anticipating enhanced programming for Dinosaur Hill through a sugar maple nursery, and that would provide programming for children to, eventually when the trees are large enough, to do sugar syrup collection. Sue Neal was excited about this, as the city was as well. And this is just kind of a depiction of where those maples could go. It would also provide fundraising opportunities to sell benches. Nick Band has been very successful in the park selling benches, and we believe that it would be equally successful in the new sugar maple area of the community garden. Current statistics, 142 plots, and proposed 160. This is the current condition of the garden with the existing fences, and you can tell it needs some TLC. The current bedding, which will be replaced with new plots, new lumber, and a crushed concrete surface with a weed barrier, and some ADA and handicap accessible planter boxes, raised bedding. And this is the same budget that was provided at the budget determination. We have gotten updated materials quotes. We're still seeking additional quotes. We believe that we will be able to
meet that budget, or our attempt is to come in under budget. And then we are using an example of our neighboring Rochester Hills to provide us with kind of a footprint of what we hope to accomplish with our renovation. I don't know if there are any questions. I'll be glad to answer those now.
Thank you. Councilmember Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Marcy, for the presentation. I know that this has been long in the works, and it's exciting to see it come to fruition. I'm wondering, first of all, I would like to make the motion to approve this formal agreement. I think that it is a step in the right direction, and I'm glad to see something formalized between ourselves and Dinosaur Hill. I would like you to please clarify how we landed on this number of $1,250 or $10 per garden plot, I think for the public and possibly other council members' benefit.
Marcy?
We have analyzed what our expenses are with the water, the maintenance, the cost for our DPW labor to go up. They typically go up twice a week and do a refuse pickup, and they take the refuse down for GFL to do their pickup at the DPW yard. They'll also deliver compost and different types of material up and do any kind of repairs that need to be done. Right now, they're doing a lot of mowing and landscaping. We're hoping to reduce some of those expenses. This year, Dinosaur Hill has agreed to pay us approximately $3,000 for the work that was done by the DPW staff with the renovation and the changes that are being proposed. We have calculated that the cost for the DPW staff to be $1,250. So that's kind of the background on how we arrived at that figure.
Thank you for the clarification.
Councilmember Albrecht?
I will support the motion made by Councilmember Harrison. Sort of piggybacking on her question, when you presented a few meetings ago, going to 160 plots, so potentially, if the supply, the demand is there, we would potentially get $1,600 from the sale of the plots versus the $1,250. The $1,250 is just the minimum, was my understanding. Is that correct, Marcy?
Correct. The only change to what we had discussed is that Dinosaur Hill has said in the event of a catastrophic harvest, if something were to go wrong and they were able to sell 0 plots, that they asked to be able to negotiate with City Council on the minimum price that they would be paying per growing season. So Attorney Crotts said yes, he believes that to be a reasonable request, a catastrophic change that might, a infestation of some sort or some type of change. They just ask for the ability to come and renegotiate in those extreme circumstances.
And one more follow-up question. So based on 2020 statistics that are on your deck, if all 142 plots were sold, so last year we got $101,420 in revenue based on the community garden. Would that be a correct assumption?
If there's 142 and it's $10 per, it would be $1,420.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Harrison, support by Councilmember Albrecht. Discussion, Councilmember Peterson.
No, thank you. So I just want to be clear, Marcy, that as far as the DPW, or as far as that catastrophic, can that be written into this contract then to have that stated that in the event of something happening, the Dinosaur Hill is not held responsible? Because we probably will all not be here, and I don't want.
It is codified in the agreement.
Well, I know, but it's.
We discussed it with Sue Neal, and she was agreeable to the clause that was put in after $1,250 minimum reimbursement, in parentheses, negotiable in the event of a catastrophic occurrence preventing reasonable lot sales. Is that maybe what you were hoping to see?
Right, but it doesn't state by who. So I just don't want it to be an issue later on in the future, that if something does happen. Because in the event that this was to stop and no one was to do this anymore, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. I want to make sure that they're not on the hook for still taking care and paying for, this here.
Okay.
Councilmember Sage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my question would be to the city attorney, based on the wording under Section 1 of the agreement, Dinosaur Hill obligations, subsection, then F.
Yep.
Is that wording enough to protect Dinosaur Hill?
Mr. City Manager, City Attorney?
So I would say yes, because keep in mind, this new document that you're looking at is actually an addendum to the existing contract. So I would actually point you to even more protections for for Dinosaur Hill, which is that, this is an agreement that they don't have to continue if they didn't want to. So if they couldn't come to a fair term, it just doesn't work for Dinosaur Hill, or they just don't want to do it anymore, then they don't have to. This is actually just an addendum to add that service to the overall agreement. So the answer to your question is yes, I'd say in combination with the underlying agreement as well.
And then can we make it in the addendum, go to point out where it's at in the actual agreement then, so then people can refer to it so it doesn't get lost?
I could put that in there.
Okay.
Just a cross-reference, you're referring
Yes.
to the
Yep.
the term, sure.
Further discussion?
Well, a couple other things, Mayor. So understanding, Marcy, since we've talked about this, and I've spoken with Sue as well, since regarding the different grants and things regarding the community garden, do we have an opportunity to, I guess that's not, two questions. First one is, why are we starting in November, or is it just the cleanup in November? Because when I spoke to Sue, this would be something that we would be starting after spring hits, because we can't get some of the materials that are needed until then.
We'll start the demolition in November. They sent out their information to their gardeners that if they wanted to take any of their planting materials, to get those out by the end of October. So we'll begin with the demolition at the end. Our plan is to begin with the demolition at the end of October, the first week in November. And then the rebuilding of it will be in the very early spring, with the fencing, the crushed concrete, and the new weed barrier. So that's to begin in the spring.
Okay, and then the other question is are we going to have any city responsibility to take this over in the event Dinosaur Hill can no longer do this? Because if we're going to, this is now the second time of almost spending, it'll be $200,000 from the beginning of this project, when it first started, till now. So would the city step up and take over the maintenance of this in the future?
Mr. City Manager, do you want to answer that?
That's not, I guess we would have to refer to the clause that Attorney Crott was talking about, that if Dinosaur Hill informs us, then that would be a decision for council. So we would, most likely try to work to see what Dinosaur Hill could do and/or see if there's another organization that might be stepping up. It doesn't preclude us as the city to actually take it over, though. There's nothing in there.
In Section 1E, it would be any funds that would remain with the community garden would be transferred to the city or another entity as chosen by the city. So I don't know if I don't know if I'm going to answer this question right, Ann, but if Dinosaur Hill decides not to continue with the service agreement, the city or another entity would perhaps be to do those service type endeavors.
And the reason for bringing that up is because that is not Dinosaur Hill's purpose. Dinosaur Hill's purpose was with the community, with the children's garden, for the education piece that they have through the schools. So I want us to be mindful, separating the two of these, that everything is not all on Dinosaur Hill, because the community garden is actually a city initiative. It was not a Dinosaur Hill initiative. They were kind enough to go into this here and get this moving forward. And I think there needs to be more of a city commitment before agreeing to this here, that the city will take it over and maintain it or find the sources to do so in the event this cannot continue. Because it's not part of Dinosaur Hill's programming. This is totally a community effort that the city wanted to do.
I definitely hear what you're saying. I don't know if it's something that I can answer
No,
or if it
right.
would be,
I think, I'll just say, if and when that happens, then the city council will have to make a decision.
Well, I know, but then we're like just throwing money away right now to redo this, to bring it back to where it was to begin with, and actually better, because when this first started, we did everything we could to save money from the city to be able to, have this for the community. Now, we are to the point that, yes, it's grown in popularity, everyone wants it, but this is actually not a Dinosaur Hill initiative, it never was. It was the city's initiative. And I would like us to have something
Councilmember
moving
Sage.
forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I was part of this initiative in 2011 when we started this discussion with Dinosaur Hill and then publicly. Dinosaur Hill actually came to us and said, this actually meets our objectives, and it also provided a revenue stream for them. They were willing to take this over with the commitment from the city that we would build it and we would maintain it. So we're now at a point where it needs to be refurbished. Okay, so I think Dinosaur Hill still has the same commitment that they've always maintained, and I think the city has the same commitment. So I would agree that until we get to a point where it needs to have another agreement, we're fine, based on the current agreement and addendum we have in place now.
And I was part of this whole thing too, when the residents came before us. We had, Pat Kane came before us, and that started this here with Ben Giovanelli, and so we moved forward with it. My concern, again, I'm going to state, is that this was not, Dinosaur Hill was all for getting this started because it was because of the children's garden that was to be the premise for them to take care of and keep the education and grow the education program with the schools. Our community garden piece was just to have, since they were there, they were going to oversee it. I just really think that we should have, if we're going to invest another $100,000 into this, we need to have a commitment from the city and not just wait to see what happens down the road, and then we start all over again, and then we're spending another $100,000 to get a community garden back up and running.
Are there further comments from the council? There's a motion on the floor, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Your Honor.
Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
No,
Sage.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is a discussion regarding the National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. In council's packet tonight, starting on page 50, is an explanation, and I'll just kind of give a high level, and then we also have Mr. Chambers from the Home Serve organization that has received the National League of Cities endorsement through their normal 5-year process. So overall, this is a agreement between the city and Home Serve. And again, this is endorsed by the National Leagues of Cities, which is a nonprofit organization. The agreement that follows my memo on page 51 through, 54, spells out that this is not endorsed by the city. This is an arrangement that allows this vendor to, twice, it's actually spelled out here, two times for two different, let me read the actual, 2 campaigns per year comprised of up to 4 mailings, as such channels may be mutually agreed, with the city actually having review before that goes out. The specific program is targeted towards communities that have older infrastructure, both water and sewer pipes, and also interior plumbing and potentially drainage. What we've had are some residents in our community as well as other communities that have older infrastructure is having to spend hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, to actually line or replace their actual service lines. By entering into this National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program, this allows these reduced rates for our residents. This does not require them to participate, but there is a program that then would be available. When I've had a few residents in the past actually contact the city, and I've met with at least one, they asked me, is there any program? Because it was thousands of dollars for them to do this. And I said, well, the city hasn't agreed to any specific program, but there are vendors, and I gave her this company's name and other ones where she could actually go on and look to see. And again, they were a much higher price than what's included in the Exhibit A of this overall agreement. And Mike, I don't know, Mr. Chambers, if you want to contact or speak.
Mr. Chambers, Mr. Chambers, welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the mayor and council and city staff allowing me a few minutes tonight to tell you a little bit about our program and how it can benefit your residents. As Mr. Wing said, my name is Mike Chambers. I'm with HomeServe. We're the administrators of the National League of Cities Service Line Program. And just to give you a little bit of a background on how this program came about, the reason the National League of Cities has gotten involved with this is they understand that infrastructure is getting older and older, especially when it comes to water and sewer lines. And one of the big issues is while the cities and the municipalities are doing their part to maintain those main water and sewer lines in the street, you have these miles and miles of lines that connect to that system that a lot of times don't get any attention until there's an issue, and that's the residents' lateral water and sewer lines. And a lot of times when the resident has a frozen water line that breaks or their sewer line gets clogged with tree roots, their first call is the city. The city will have to go out, check the lines in the street, make sure they're working properly. 99% of the time, those lines are fine because you're going to maintenance and upkeep on them. And now you're put in the bad position to be the bearer of bad news. Mr. and Mrs. Resident, you found the issue, it's on your property, and you're going to have a contractor out here to have it repaired. And most residents don't even realize they're responsible for these buried lines until you're telling them that. And even the residents who do realize they're responsible, they don't have the, as Mr. Wing said, they can cost $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to dig up a line and replace it. So that's where our program comes in. First off, it's an educational program. We do a free public awareness campaign to all the residents there, let them know that the water and sewer lines are their responsibility, give them some tips on how we can keep them working properly, that sort of thing. And then secondly, is give them a chance to transfer that risk from themselves over to the NLC program through a low-cost monthly warranty. Now, the nice part for the city, it's a fully turnkey program. We handle all the marketing, all the billing, all the customer service, all the claims. There's no cost or anything for the city to participate in the program as well. And then the nice part for your residents too, as Mr. Wing said, it's completely optional. So if the city does decide to participate, it's just something that's available to them. But if they choose, they can enroll, and we'll have 3 products that we make available for them. The external water line coverage, that'll cover their entire external water line from where it enters the home all the way up to where it connects to the curb stop. Covers everything from leaking lines, broken lines, slow running lines, basically any disruption in their water service. There's no deductible on this for the residents. There's no service fees. We also don't do any pre-inspections, and there's no annual or lifetime limits. The sewer line coverage will cover the point where it enters the home all the way up to where it connects to the main. It'll cover everything from a simple clean out, something gets stuck down there, there's tree roots, all the way up to fully replacing the line and even repairing any kind of street or concrete, sidewalk, anything like that would need to be repaired as well. Once again, no deductible or any kind of service fees on that program as well. When the resident has an issue, all they do is make one call to us. We have a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week US-based call center, and then we dispatch a local licensed plumber to make the repair. That's another big benefit of the program too, is we'll use contractors from there in Rochester to do the repairs. Not only does that keep the dollars there locally in the community, but more importantly, we want to make sure that all the lines are fixed correctly the way the city wants them to be. So the local contractors are going to know what the codes are. They're going to pull all the permits and all that sort of thing. Just some stats on the program. So we have over 1,000 communities across the country participating. I think there's around 25 there in the state of Michigan. A lot of your neighbors are in the program, Royal Oak, Berkeley, St. Clair Shores, Huntington Woods. There's several in the region. And then since the program's inception, we just actually this past week, we surpassed $10 million that we paid in the state of Michigan alone. So just to give you an example, like the city of Berkeley is one of a city that's pretty similar in size to Rochester. And we've already saved the residents over $1.5 million on repairing and replacing the line. So that's a significant savings that, the residents didn't have to put into their underground system, basically. And then also that the local contractors made off the program as well. It's also A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. It's got a 98% customer satisfaction rating. And it's been awarded the Torch Award from the BBB twice out of the past 6 years, which is given to the top companies for business ethics. So that's kind of the highlights of the program. I'd like to answer any questions for you.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Thank you for being here. I am one of those residents that have 2 homes in the city, and I have dug up 2 front yards. However, in one of those homes, we still have another issue because our line goes under the street. So walk me through if, let's just say us as residents, we participate in this program and we notice the sewer water is slowing, it's not flowing as properly. We want to make a claim. How does that sound? What does that look like?
Sure. So whenever you enroll, you'll get a 1-800 number to call. That's our customer service center. As I said, it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You'll call us and just say, hey, my sewer line's running slow. I'd like to file a claim. We'll go ahead and submit that claim, and then we'll dispatch that to the contractor there in Rochester. And we ask that the contractor contact you within 1 hour to set up a time to be on your property. Typically, we find that the contractor's out there within 24 to 48 hours, depending on, getting it. The line needs to be dug up and we need to get it, marked or anything from 411 or oops, But then, so the contractor will come out, he'll camera the line. If it's just something clogged in your line, then he'll just go ahead and, jet it out. Whenever he's cammering it, if he finds that it's collapsed or there's more damage, then that's when he'll go ahead and replace the line for you. And then all that's done, all the payments done between us and the contractor. There's no reimbursement or anything for the resident. Basically, you make the one call and then we handle it from there.
Okay, so what about any questions with workmanship? So let's say the line is replaced under the street and there's something wrong with the street or something wrong with the line. How is that resolved?
Yeah, great question. So there's a 1-year warranty that comes with every, claim that we fix. So if there is an issue or anything like that, you would just let us know. We also make sure that all of our contractors, it's why we use local contractors too. We make sure they're all licensed, insured, bonded, drug tested, all that. So we try to get the most quality contractor that we can there in the area to do the work. So they're insured from their work, plus you're insured through us as well.
Okay, excellent. This is really welcomed news, and especially for the neighbors. I know many neighbors that spend at least $120 a year just doing roto-rooter or root kills or something down the system, and so I think this would be a real savings to residents. So I'll let council ask other questions, but I'm in full support of this.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate the time. I do have a question in terms of numbers. I feel a little bit uncomfortable having the city partner with a for-profit organization when residents could just come to you directly. Why do we need to be in partnership together? What is the value in terms of numbers if an individual resident came to you asking for this service as opposed to us partnering with you to offer together our residents this service? Could you give me some dollars? Sure.
So I believe the rate there for the water line coverage is going to be $5.99 per month. The sewer line coverage is going to be $7.99 a month. I believe the standard rates that we would offer, the water line is going to be close to $8, and then the sewer line is going to be $11. So it's a significant savings for your residents.
So without this partnership, what would our residents be paying for the same service? Would they even have access to this service?
We wouldn't mail it or anything like that. We do have, if they want to, sign up for it, then they can go through just the regular branding, which we don't really market or advertise or anything like that. It's not something, it's really not our business model. Our business model is to, partner with the cities because we want to also make sure that all your residents, everything they're responsible for is covered. So we actually work with your staff there to design the program to cover everything. So just an example, like the city of Saline, Michigan is one of our partners. And in that community, the residents are responsible from the main all the way into the house on the water line, where typically it's a curb stop program. That's all that our typical coverage would cover. So without working with the city, we would never know that. So now that, you know, the Saline, whenever they partnered with us, their residents get the full coverage purchasing through us. So
Thank
that
you.
makes sense. We want to make sure everything's covered for your residents and give them the best possible price we can.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Mike, thanks for coming out tonight. Couple questions for you, couple for the city manager. Your term sheet was dated November 5th, 2020. Then it says adjustments will not exceed 50 cents per month in any 12-month period, or $18 a year if I took all three services. Is that term sheet updated through today?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I'll get it updated for you. I think that's when Blaine and I first started talking about it there, you know, moving forward. But yeah, I'll get it updated. It's the same costs and everything. We actually haven't raised any rates or anything in the state of Michigan since 2013.
okay. Again, I think it's a great program. My next questions are really for Blaine. How often has this happened in Rochester in the last 3 years, to the best of your knowledge, where we could say to the residents, hey, we've got a solution for you at $282 a year for some protection?
Well, just with our recent projects this year, there's been at least 3 residents that have contacted me as they've had, issues just along our project. So Wilcox, Oak, Mahaffey. And again, I don't know how many residents have actually contacted our building department, asking for references. Again, we don't give out references, but, so I would say, just from when we're doing a project, just on those limited amount of residential homes, let's just say there's 100, you're 3 that have at least called us. Normally I would double or triple that. So, I mean, 10%, and again, this is probably going to be for residents that have homes that are, a little bit older. But again, depending on where trees are planted, you might have the root systems that have actually gotten in. So, as our community continues to age, and with the infrastructure that we have, I think eventually this is a type of a program that more and more of our residents could take advantage of. I will note that this agreement does have, some opt-out. So if we're not satisfied with it, we have some of that language. Again, Attorney Crott has been very diligent in making sure that we have, other than the 1-year component, if there's an issue that we can actually, get out of this sort of agreement. So I would say at least 10% right off the top of my head is what I would say of our residents.
Thank you. And then just a couple, Mike, thanks for, one of my questions was who else is doing this? And you said Royal Oak, Berkeley, St. Clair Shores, Huntington Woods, Saline were some of the ones you mentioned. That's good to know. Just the last thing on the marketing campaigns, more for the city. I want to make sure the marketing campaigns are separate and distinct. Remember a few years ago, we had something that went out on a water bill that confused some residents. So I would hope that whatever came, we're offering this, as Councilmember Harrison said, we're offering this as a way for our residents to save money. But, it's sort of a fine line between offering it and endorsing something, because,
Right.
So I want to make sure we keep that separate and distinct in terms of our marketing. That being said, I would make a motion that authorizing the city we're still doing questions, so I can hold off. I'll make the motion. I'd make a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into the agreement with,
It's the National League of Services.
Home Serve.
Yep.
National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program.
Thank you.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Albrecht, support by Councilmember Harrison. Question, Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you. So on the website, though, it does state that it says it drives dollars back into your communities with our revenue share model. So how much does that?
Yep, so I actually, go ahead. I opted out of that portion when we did it, so I didn't want it to seem like there's an endorsement. And again, Attorney Crott can actually note the specific language that we added in there saying that it's not an endorsement. I asked that the amounts actually be reduced instead of having any revenue come back to the city. So the listed price is there for, under the terms, went down, so if it was $8.50, they reduced it down to the $7.99. And again, instead of having any portion come back to the city, I didn't feel comfortable. And again, I think the other portion for their website is what they're saying is that the dollars are basically staying local based on the vendors that they're using.
Okay, So I guess my concern too is it is a for-profit, even though I guess I don't want to see the city endorsing a product like this either. I think it's a nice to have here for the residents to learn about and maybe take advantage of. But to have the city as a whole entering into anything, even if you can opt out later on, I don't think it's along those lines that we should be doing that. I'd hate to see the confusion take place that it's supposed to like cover everything and take care of all of that, because every situation is different. And then are these warranties transferable if someone's been paying on it, or do they have to start fresh if they sell their home and the next person? Is there any other information? I would like more information before I actually vote on this, because it does seem like something that could be good, but I'm really not comfortable voting on it without more information.
Councilmember Harrison.
I think Councilmember Peterson makes a good point. I would be curious if what the marketing material looks like. Does it have our city brand and logo on it, or is it very independent, sent from Home Safe to our residents?
So, we actually have lots of options for you on the marketing letter, and that's the nice part too about the program is even if you did decide to participate through the contract, nothing will ever get mailed without the city's approval. So say you did decide to participate and we didn't come up with anything that you like, but we'll definitely, work with you to make sure the letter is happy. But if we couldn't find something that we were happy with, you could just not approve it and we would never mail it.
Another question, Mayor.
Councilmember Peterson.
So if the work is done on a property and you have that 1-year warranty on it and somebody sells their home, is that transferable?
Correct, yes. And then as for ask about the warranty too, about the transferable. So the warranty works on a month-to-month basis, so there's no contract or anything for your residents to sign. Basically, as long as they're paying their monthly, charge, then they're covered for that month. Also, the residents can cancel at any time since there's no contract. If they paid a year in advance and they cancel, they'll get refunded anything that they don't use.
Councilmember Harrison.
Who pays for the marketing mailers?
Everything's paid for, but there's never any cost or anything to the city. All marketing, postage, all that stuff is paid by us.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Thank you. City Manager, do we have any feedback from any other local communities on pros, cons? Was this good, bad?
Yep, so got several. So from Roseville, their city manager, Berkeley, Beverly Hills, and Highland Park. So all of those local Michigan communities overall are supportive of this particular one. Several of them wish they would have offered it earlier because they had residents that had $1,000 bills that they would have paid literally a couple hundred if they would have signed up for the program. So from public works directors, a city manager, village manager, and an engineer did get positive feedback, and there was not anything negative.
Yeah, it's $6,000 to dig up your front yard. I've done it 3 times, so it's $6,000.
I will note, if I could, on page 51, underneath the city's obligation, the attorney made sure that we wrote in this agreement, I'll read the second paragraph, second sentence, the city will further explain that the company is not endorsed by the city, but through the National League of Cities, so the NLC, and that the city is only informing residents and businesses that the company may be contacting them to offer products. So that was specific language that, again, I worked with the attorney. And then in the exhibit, the use of the city's logo, name on letterhead, advertising, signature line, marketing materials are at the company's sole cost and expense, subject to the city's prior review and approval before each use. So I felt, again, along with the language, for us to not approve anything and/or basically get out of the agreement. I feel from, I guess, really almost 4 years ago when we first started and there were no Michigan municipal communities in, with now I think over 20, almost 25, that there's been momentum. And there's other ones that I didn't get a call back from Clausen and some other ones. But I think communities that have older infrastructure, this is a program, again, that nationwide, that's why the National League of Cities actually does a request for proposal, gets companies, and they've selected this one to continue their program thus far, at least as far back as I could see, was at least 10 years.
2009.
Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Manager Wing, so I think the first sentence in the second paragraph in our city obligations is the most important to me. The city will at least one time per year explain via the city's newsletter that the company has been selected by the National League of Cities to administer NLC's service warranty line program. And I think it would then be incumbent upon us how we craft that message to make sure we are not directly endorsing, but are providing an opportunity for service to our residents.
Definitely, and again, we'd be listing really through the National League of Cities, which is the nonprofit organization, and that's why, quite honestly, I feel comfortable that this is not specifically endorsing, and we're even saying we are not endorsing. This is not endorsed by the city. It's the National League of Cities, that this is really their program, and that's that we're basically joining that partnership.
Councilmember Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor. So, City Manager Wing, then, how many residents in those communities actually pay monthly to have that service, and how many of them have had claims?
I wouldn't know those, but I think Mike was saying, you know, it's paid out over the length of the program in Michigan, which I believe was probably around 2013, 14.
Yeah, 13, 14, so about 10 million. So just give you, just some examples. I was looking at them today. Berkeley's been $1.5 million. Roseville is 800,000. Royal Oaks $1.6 million we paid off there. So, Michigan is actually one of the highest claim states that we have for this, just because of the infrastructure, older infrastructure, and the trees. Most of all, St. Clair Shores has actually decided to participate in this program just because residents were cutting down the trees in their yard, and they had these beautiful old trees that you just couldn't deal with them getting into your sewer line all the time. So they looked at this as a way to save those trees, and so now residents can just, call and have them cleaned out. And then as for, who participates, we also, Michigan's one of the highest states of participation. Typically, we see about 8 to 10% of the residents will enroll after the first time we mail. We usually do the mailings for about 3 years. After that, everybody's aware of the program, and usually it's anywhere from around 30%. We have one of our partners, Huntington Woods. There are about 2,000 households there, but I think over 80% of their homes are enrolled in the program. Typically in Michigan, we're about 30 to 40% throughout the things of the cities that have been in it for multiple years.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia?
Sorry, I have one more question. So as a company, how do you make money?
That was my thought.
It's a great question. So it's just because of large of scale. So like I said, we have partners all across the country, from little communities all the way up to Los Angeles, Phoenix, some of the largest cities in the country participate in this program. So just by spreading it throughout the country, some states have higher claims, some states don't have as high of claims. So that's how it ends up working out.
Okay.
Councilmember Harrison?
Thank you. Last comment. I had my front lawn dug up, and I would have been so grateful for a program like this because it is stressful. So if we can offer a benefit like this to our residents, I am in full support of it.
Very good. I just like to say, I think, as someone who lives in the older part of town, I think everybody lives in a little fear that this could happen. So I think this is a great program for people to offer. They don't have to take it, right? We're not endorsing it, but it's something that we can offer to our community, which I think is important to do.
So I guess one more.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes, yes. How does the transfer work if someone has the work done and they sell their home?
That's just in our system under the address. So everything's logged to an address.
Okay, so a new buyer they don't have to go sign anything or anything. Sometimes they have to actually be notified.
Yeah. No, they can just call it, they can, as long as the owner lets them know. Sorry, my dog just walked in.
I'm like, who's coming in?
We thought it was a ghost.
I knew it was a kid or a dog.
But yeah, as long as the new owner would let the old owner would let the new owner know that, hey, there's a warranty for another 10 months or whatever, they would just have to call in and say, hey, I live at this address, and we'll have the record of it.
Okay, but that's only if that person continues paying for it, correct? Because if they're on a monthly
No.
paying for it?
No, so they could if they had work done,
Right.
the claim that came from the day that it's done has a 1-year warranty, whether they stay in the program or not. If they stay in the program, they're covered forever, as long as they're making their monthly payment, but they'll have a year from the date that claim was completed.
Okay.
So one last question. When can we all sign up?
My husband signed up tonight.
I'm serious. If we approve this tonight, when does it start, Mark or Mr. City Manager?
Mike, I
So the
think,
mailing
yeah,
takes place usually it takes about 2 months to get the mailing out, but you can sign up. It's 30 days. Usually takes us 30 days to get everything loaded in the system. And then if you can let your residents know, but then the mailing usually takes about 2 months just because we'll work back and forth on the letter. We'll also start working on getting contractors. We don't want to have anybody signed up until we have, a contractor from there in Rochester enrolled in the program so that they can take the claim. So typically about 30 days, you'll be able to let people know they can sign up, but it'll be about 8 weeks until we do the mailings.
Thank you.
I can tell them who not to use.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes, thank you. Do you have any municipalities who have declined this service in our area?
It's not really declined. It's just kind of the same thing I've been working with Blaine for 4 years. It's just, it's just people that are looking at it and haven't done it yet. I will tell you that Royal Oak was one of the first cities that I went to. I went there in 2012 and they did vote us down back then just because it was so new. And then by 2014, they were calling me up to have me come back because there were some other communities that had around there that participated. And I believe that one of the council members on Royal Oak lived in Huntington Woods, so he had the coverage and had an experience, and that's how we ended up getting back there. So it's not really, not done it. They just haven't done it yet.
And one other follow-up then. Has your company gone to the county to see about having them participate? Or is it just at the individual municipality, which I think the county would have a greater role to get that information out?
Yeah, we have gone to counties. It's typically because it's National League of Cities endorsed. It's mainly cities that, participate. But I've spoke with Oakland County, a few of the counties up there, but it just kind of takes them a little bit longer to review everything. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
yes.
Thank you and welcome to Rochester.
Thank you very much. Everyone have a nice night.
Thank you.
I think he already has 3 customers here.
Yeah.
At least. It's getting big.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, with the, what was it, the cardboard sewer lines from the old days? That's a problem.
I want to sign up now.
Next, we have recommendation of maintenance work for the driveway at the water treatment center. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you. So as we've completed the main transmission line work, we did have some of our driveway over at our treatment center actually get damaged. This was not foreseen. However, the cost of materials is definitely a little higher. And as you can see, based on the 2 quotes, one came in over 70,000 and the other one came in just under 36. So we are not able to do the whole roadway. What we're addressing is the area that was basically impacted by the work from the transmission main. And we have just about $40,000 in our budget for maintenance work because this was somewhat anticipated if we were going to be going across our driveway. So tonight, what I'm recommending is the lower proposal, which is to Boeing Paving in the amount of $35,898 to mill and fill just over 9,000 square feet of driveway or roadway at the city's water treatment center.
So moved. Does it
Motion
have
by-
to be done, though?
Yeah, my recommendation, again, and even talking with our water foreman, he doesn't feel that even if we patched we would have issues during this winter season. So the snow plows would actually be bouncing their blades as they're going through. And again, this being our water treatment center, this is the time. For the other work, again, the prices are too high, so we just passed. But instead of doing mill and fill, most likely doing a capping.
It's fine. So moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson, support by Mayor Pro Tem Salvia. Discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Very good. Next, receive a report from the various boards and commission. First is a report from the OPC. Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Yes, thank you. So OPC Board had their meeting September 30th. The agenda's in the packet. Before the meeting, we met some new employees at the OPC, so very nice to see some new employees coming on. One came from Oakland County in HR, so bringing some good experience. Another one in the recreation area came from Lifetime Fitness, overseeing multiple facilities. So again, some good experienced people coming to the OPC. We started discussion on a refund policy, and the board asked to table it, just to make sure that it was fair and not punitive to the members. But they're just looking to have a transparent policy, especially in light of the past year where there have been so many cancellations. So more discussion on that. Probably the most, I'll say, interesting topic that was discussed is that the OPC is going out for a rebranding project. So there was a request for proposal that went out. It was awarded to a marketing company to do a survey on the brand of the OPC and whether the name Older Person Commission still resonates in our community. And so this was at board direction, and you can imagine there's going to be some opinions both ways on this topic. So there's going to be a lot of discussion. We're really encouraging input from everyone. Residents can, give their feedback by calling the OPC. There's going to be surveys. There's going to be lots of discussion on this topic.
Very good. Councilmember Albright, question?
Couple, about a year and a half ago, when Renee came here to make a presentation, they were talking about, she presented the budget, and one of the things I had suggested was, we're ever thinking of moving the age 50 up, gradually moving it up, because we're all living older, living longer, and, the demand on the facility will get more and more. Has that come up in any subsequent board meetings, and if not, could that be brought up? I'm not looking to go to 55, but perhaps some sort of graduated change to acknowledge the fact that, 50 is the new 30.
Right,
so,
right.
So maybe 50 when OPC started was the right number, but just I want to see if that can be brought up in future meetings.
Certainly I'll bring it up. I know recently, just in light of I'll call it the reopening, there has been, I'll say, kind of the opposite effort, trying to get people back into the facility. So, but it should be part of the discussion, for sure.
And again, anybody who was already 50 would be, pardon the pun, grandfathered in already, so that nobody would lose from this. But again, I'm looking for the long view to make sure we can still manage all the people from the communities we serve.
Councilmember Albrecht, I don't want to wait.
Yeah, I think there was some legal issues on that, because if you're taking federal money, then you can't limit age group, and, so there was some issues on that need to be looked at.
Then how was 50 a number that was picked at some point?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a federal mandate that it's 50, then so be it, drop it. But to me, 50 is a number. 50 is the same. 55, it could have been 60. Right. So again,
I think the answer to that question was, and it was before I was on the board, was I think the Senior Olympics was 50.
Right, yeah.
And so that was kind of where they got the number, so they could compete in that. And but again, that was a long time ago, so maybe that's not relevant anymore.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is a report from the Planning Commission. Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we reviewed a site plan for Forest Ridge Apartments there on 2nd Street to add 167 carports. A lengthy discussion ensued, and we gave some direction back to the applicant to first to actually provide us drawings of the carports as opposed to just pictures overlaid on other pictures of the lots. We also wanted to consider some more softening features around some of these lots, and as well whether the what they're proposing to install, would it meet the new and revised or soon to be revised light and illumination ordinance. So we wanted to be conscious of that as we're going forward. So we tabled it and gave them some direction to come back, and we anticipate that they will. The next meeting will involve 2 public hearings, one on the fence ordinance regarding the pools that we've discussed here, and the second would be the public hearing on the light and illumination ordinance that applies to commercial and multifamily properties and their impact on the residents of the city. The final topic we will discuss at that next meeting will be the master plan, the draft of the master plan, and for us to submit any recommendations for revision to that prior to us then sending to this council for consideration.
Very good. Thank you. Next, receive a report from the Sister City Committee. Councilmember Albrecht.
Thank you, Mayor. We met here in the Rochester Chambers on October 5th. We try to flip-flop every other meeting, so this was our turn. And we had really three items we talked about. One was, I'll go out of order, the 2022 Memorial Day celebration. What we've been talking about has been, we do our part in the Mount Avon Cemetery. Rochester Hill does theirs at the park at Livernois and Avon. And then a couple pre-pandemic, there was the Oakland Township where the site is that unfortunately had some vandalism this weekend, which was terrible. Had the full celebration. So what we were looking at was resurrecting that, meaning we could still do our, cemetery thing in the morning. Rochester Hills could do theirs. The timing would be worked out between the three communities. Then we'd all meet at Adams High School parking lot for a parade up to the Oakland Township park and have a formal ceremony there tying in Rochester Hills, and Oakland Township. When we did this, again, this is before my time, when we did this before, we had given it to Maggie Bobbitz. We had her, because she does the parade. Congratulations to Maggie for becoming now the president of the Rochester Chamber. But we would want somebody like that to do that, and we had budgeted around $2,500 would get us to have somebody work out the logistics, get the marching bands and the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and floats and things of that sort, and coordinating the ceremonies and the speakers and things of that sort. So we talked about finding some people who could write that check or write several checks to add up to that money to make this an ongoing event. So that was a major part of the discussion. We then moved on to the discussion about DTE, and Rochester Hills had the same. I shared with them our meeting with the DTE representative and some of the comments that were brought up, and Rochester Hills did not have something like that. However, Mayor Barnett has started 2 weeks ago to keep DTE honest, for sake of a better term. If residents are having issues, to be able to call into this hotline, so that when DTE says, well, we only had, X number of things in this city and on this date, we would have a way to sort of a check and balance. So I was going to suggest that if we had any sort of way to do that here before I go on to my third item.
I don't know how Brian's, if he's using a call service or if he's using his current staff. Yeah, so I would talk with our finance department, that is our reception staff, but I don't know if we might be able to do a link through maybe a website where people could fill things out. Our staffing is pretty maxed out for where we're at. I don't have as much capacity as a Rochester Hills with the amount of staff that they have.
And well said and understood. And then the third thing we talked about was planning for the future. I shared with them the excellent idea that we had about I think it was Brian that came up with the dump truck for spoiled food. We talked about DTE providing the water station, even though it was in the wrong spot. We talked about what kinds of things. We hope there's not going to be any other power outages lasting the duration of the August 11th and 12th event, but we felt that we should have some sort of protocol that if power is out more than a day, then we marshal our forces together to say, here are the cooling centers or warming centers, depending on when it happens. Here's where you can get internet coverage, OPC, RAH, public library, have all these places sort of laid out in advance. So when it does happen, we flip a switch. We've got a sort of a protocol in place to be able to reach out to DTE, say, if you're going to put in your water station and handing out whatever they're going to hand out, please put it in a central spot. So we're going to talk about that at the next meeting. So those are the three major topics. And again, any feedback that Mayor Barnett or City Manager Wing gets from these ongoing meetings with DTE, with Oakland County or the state or whoever gets involved going forward, we'd like to, keep us involved as you have. The final thing, which was our next meeting will be December 16th. And then, as I spoke to the mayor, we are short one member on the sister city committee. So post the November election, that's why we moved the meeting to December. Hopefully, we could appoint somebody to be the third person on the sister city committee, along with Councilmember Peterson and myself, so that we can welcome that person at the December 16th meeting. That was it.
Very good. Councilmember Sage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Albrecht, just a quick question regarding the contingency plans with DTE and identifying. So did we reach out to the community emergency response team and the whatever they already have as guideline to overlay to that?
That's a great idea. I wasn't aware of, I know there's the team, but that's probably a great way to
I'm
start.
pretty sure they've identified a lot of those locations and protocols and process.
You beat me to it. I was just going to make sure we talked about CERT, and then also we've just updated in the fire chief, every 2 years comes back. We participate in the county's program, and then we actually have everything from power outages to, flooding to some natural disaster that the chief always comes up with, and we actually will be doing some training. I know because of COVID, you and Amanda, weren't able to participate in the what would have been the first round for you guys, but I'm talking with the chief, and we're hopeful to have that scheduled here.
Fire training?
No, the fire chief actually is our emergency management coordinator, and so there's a full list. We actually have a pretty thick document that actually already identifies. We have memorandums of understandings with different organizations. We have locations, heating centers, cooling centers, buses, all that stuff, all that infrastructure and vehicles and equipment, in addition to agreements like with the Royal Park Hotel for room rates and for other things. So we pretty much have a plan. The challenging part is, when you have like power, DTE, that's one, we don't oversee that entity. And so where they're placing, if they have an outage, this last one was so large that they placed it with probably a partner, which was Kroger's, at a location that they felt they didn't get input really from, at least from our community. I don't know if they did from others. But what I'd like to do is actually work with them, just like what we're doing with our complete streetscapes is, when we have some of these drills and exercises, is actually include the utilities. So already having the phone numbers, the emails, the text messages, so when something happens, instead of trying to hunt and find, we already have an established relationship with this person, their backup. And if somebody is in, maybe even off on vacation, we do this where, tap, I'm out for this incident, and all of a sudden somebody else has to play. So there's the national incident management scenario that will actually, and like myself and several of our employees, we're certified all the way through. And we have public information people to everybody able to play roles and be interchanged. So Mark, be happy to get you the most updated document and then connect you really probably up with the fire chief, maybe to spend a little bit of time just so he's really passionate about this subject. And from this storm, we actually are going to be looking at and coming to council here down the road for a budget request, most likely for a trailer, so that we can actually have it already loaded with some signage. Again, this time we had numerous traffic lights out. So scrambling to get enough, so I already have that prepared, ready to go, just pick the trailer up and we can go. So from cones to barricades to other stuff, I've done this in other communities. I know the chief is actually excited too. Minimal cost, there's grants actually as well that are available through FEMA, and having that already in the system, and then we log it into the county system to say this is what these assets that we have. Trailers are great because then we don't even have to unload it. We can literally hook it up and go. So some exciting stuff. Happy to connect up with you on that.
Well, I guess the $1 million question I have is, well, we did have a power outage for 5 days. Did the chief enact some of these things that were in the protocol, that were put in place? That, I know we managed through the lights being out and everything else like that, but and we came up with some good ideas on our own, but did we go to that book or document and then start following the protocol?
Yep, the chief, I think within an hour actually contacted me, to remind me that I have a binder that, here's the chapter for power outages, and he was already going through and working with Jason, our superintendent, on getting the barricades and other things enlisted. One chief talks with the other chief, and we also have the shared dispatch center too, so they were going through that. I was wearing two hats as the communication person and as my hat, but that's why I'm also not the emergency management coordinator. Our community is smart like that. I've been in other ones that they do make either the manager or the assistant the emergency management coordinator. Typically, I've found through the scenarios that I've gone, it's better for us to be playing more of the public information person and communicating with our elected officials, and maybe having the network to know, like, oh, that person's on vacation. Oh, call over to here so kind of connector, if you will, and then being able to work with maybe the police or fire to actually be that public information person that might have to actually speak at an actual incident or event. So we've set it up really strong. I feel being a part of the county's overall system, and then for us, and we continue to work through those tabletop exercises. I think in the upcoming years, we'll actually do some actual drills or live scenarios. I know the chief a couple years ago did one actually in our municipal park. So we've done some, but it's always better to flex those muscles, just like playing any sport. Again, the more you practice, the better we'll be at it.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments? Councilmember Albright? Thank you, and I will make no comment on DTE tonight. Next for new business, for referral and miscellaneous, public comment. Brian, anybody?
I am not seeing any, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you for being here tonight. Next, we
thing.
have receipt of the check register reports and the city manager update. Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, thank you. So the two check register reports are the ones from September 30th and then October 7th. As for my updates, I'll just hit on a few. Construction updates, again, Second Street was delayed several days due to all the rain that we've had, but they were very active today and made great progress. So I'm actually only anticipating probably tomorrow a half a day to kind of finish up where they're at. And the sooner that we can get traffic, flowing back to normal, everybody's going to appreciate that. Again, also making progress on Oak Street, Mahaffey, and Wilcox. So continue to have the updates on the city's website and sending those out. Sure, yeah.
On Oak Street,
Yep.
when 2 weeks ago, a seal said they just had to do 2 more inches of paving, and it looks like it's still 2 inches short.
Yep, so there were some curb issues that we were working on, so, and that's going to impact, and we wanted to make sure that that was correct so that we have the proper storm drainage. So there's been a few spots that have caused us not to do that paving until we actually have those, because once we do it, then I'm going to have to break the other component. Then if the water gets underneath there, we've undermined really a lot of the work that we're doing. So our inspectors have been very diligent and have picked up several of those spots, and we're holding the contractor, and we're getting the things done right so that it's done. It has caused probably on that street, probably about a 2-week delay. I've been working with them so that we can get some of the work caught up on the Saturdays, which we've fortunately had nicer weather during the weekends than we have during the week where it's been raining and it's been a challenge.
So when will Oak be done?
I will get an answer from the contractor by this Friday, and I'll send that out to council.
Thank you.
Next, an update on our public works search. So we've narrowed down to what I feel is the top candidate. We had that individual out this past Friday. We're at the background and reference check portion, and if that goes well, we'll be making a conditional offer, and would hope to have that individual hopefully starting this November. I do want to note, again, as we talked about the heavy rains this past week, we did have some flooding occur on Friday afternoon. I did call back our public works staff. It was almost all of our staff coming back because the storm hit after 4 o'clock, and our staff wraps up at 3:30. And that was, yeah, so challenging, but weather we don't get to schedule. So they were mainly addressing storm drainage issues, and a lot of that was due to now we got that really really heavy rainfall. We got about 2 inches in 45 minutes, which is really unheard of. And the heaviness actually was knocking down some leaves early, which then was clogging up some of our storm drains. So they're out there really scooping out and puncturing holes through the leaves and scooping out that stuff so that the water actually could go through. What I've worked with, actually during the event, I was talking with our engineers, and what we've started now is what I'll call an initial map IDing flood spots, so that we can actually, it's almost like a hot map where it's kind of like where we're targeting, so that we can review that in the future and then discuss that with our infrastructure committee. I'll also note that there are several items in the, as you guys I'm sure are reviewing, the master plan update that do address impervious surfaces as well as some of the storm drainage. So we're looking at this from the zoning side of things and also the practical side, and also working with their engineers. And I've been working with a couple HOAs as well, as they've had some detention ponds that have filled, and some have in this past year actually overfilled. And so we're working through some of those issues as well. The final thing that I'll note is our fire station is still doing the vaccines for Pfizer, and now the booster shots, and those have been going well. We've had very high demand to the point where the medical staff has actually had to go back to the center to actually get more doses. When they were anticipating 150, we had 450. So some very good turnouts, and happy to see that our station has been fully utilized, and people are taking advantage of those things. So again, go to Oakland County's website to check the eligibility information and for updates on that. We do have Oakland County's using the OPC and a few other local centers for doing also flu shots as well. So couple things going on. We're not doing the flu shots at the fire station, but OPC and other locations around our area are doing that as well. That's all I have.
Very good. Question, Councilmember Peterson.
Yes, thank you. So in the manager's report regarding the DDA streetlights, it does state in that document that it says Main Street only, so it's not talking about the side streets. So is that regarding all of the lights then?
Attorney Crott, I know you helped me with that language in the manager's report, so maybe you can help address this question?
Sure.
City Attorney.
Sure, thank you. So the memo I sent in was address the DDA lights. I think that was the question, is whether those are specific regulated. The ordinance, I don't have it in front of me, but the ordinance specific refers to the historic lights as well as the regular street lights. Those would be exempted from the other light restrictions.
Right, so, but it does say on Main Street, so I'm referring to the ones that are in front of homes that are not on Main Street. Okay, so,
That would be the all other street light exception.
well, all other, okay, but is there a way that some of those can be shielded in a way?
Sure, if there's
Because you also
particular.
have the parking deck lights that are right in their front of their face too, off of East Street and a couple of the other streets there.
I won't speak for administration or DPW, but I know in the past when there's been a particular light that's been problematic, the city has addressed that with some shielding and from my understanding, it's been satisfactory. So I think much like I guess that would be the one-off. There's nothing precluding the city from taking steps. But so I think if there's a particular light, I think the city would address that.
Okay, so I guess that goes to the same ones that are along the walkway by the Royal Park Hotel, along the river. When you're walking along there, all of a sudden the lights go out, at nighttime, so then it's dark. So, and then they don't come back on. So I'm wondering why we have, it's differentiated there, because there's a resident there and a resident on another street.
Yep, so I've actually been working with the Royal Park. I think we've identified 4 or 5 that actually were having some electrical issues.
Okay.
My understanding is those, hopefully will be resolved here quickly. So we had to call a contractor out to help us.
Okay.
But again, to my knowledge, when we've had any complaints or concerns from residents, we've worked with them and our vendors to actually put up the appropriate shielding. Sometimes if it's not even the city's lights, that, you know, we've worked with a third party to actually kind of get that done as well.
Well, and I'm just thinking that because, especially on East Street there, you have residential properties there as well as commercial on the one side, but you have all the lights from the parking deck. Like, do we really need all that lighting right there? So I will let the residents know that I know of that have been talking about it, just to reach out then to the city.
Yep, please do.
And another question, if I may, regarding the manager's report. So, well, I was uncomfortable tonight coming here based on the fact that receiving the call regarding the whole entire state of the city being canceled due to those that attended the DDA visioning session and coming in contact with people with COVID and really not having any clarification as to what the protocol was going to be here tonight. Because I value my health here, I think that we should have had protocol to let us know what was going on. Because I'm not real comfortable being here. But because no one was coughing, I kind of felt a little bit better. No one looked like they had a fever either. But I think it's something that the city should have addressed to us to take those precautions even here. So in the event anyone is in contact with someone and you find out, we have to find another way to conduct the meeting. Because otherwise, we're putting everybody at risk, and I think it's wrong. And on that note, regarding the whole community house agreement signing, I'm not sure who was there, but I do feel that, I know you put it in the manager report, but I still think that this here is an issue that I see that you're going to address it as well for future, but we can't be receiving phone calls that things are not going to happen and then find out after the fact that things are happening, especially under these circumstances where the reason why it was canceled was because of COVID exposure. And I don't know why it couldn't have waited to even be signed here publicly, so it was in the public for the public's eyes to see. So I would like to know tonight how many people attended the signing that took place at the community house on the 6th.
Well, I can answer that. I was there, Mayor Pro Tem Salvia was there, and the event was outside, so there was no COVID issues.
Okay, but it doesn't matter if you're inside or outside, but you still both were exposed to somebody
it
at
does.
COVID. No, it does not. And talking to the county executive today, these are things that whether outside or inside, if you've been exposed, you should not be going in contact with other people. So, and it would have been nice to have been informed of that ahead of time as well. So,
Informed of what, I'm sorry, the last.
informed of those that were actually came in contact, it should have been formally addressed, that they had COVID exposure from attending one event, so it
Yep,
was
so
not here.
yeah, I would say there's a possible exposure. My understanding is there's one person that did contract COVID. If there was more, was in contact with the director, the DDA director, to potentially send out a notification if there was more than one individual, similar to when the MML actually sent out a notification that there had several individuals that had contracted COVID. There was the one we had not, during the window of time, which was really up to that Wednesday, had not had any others, and to my knowledge, there has not been any others that have contracted that from that particular event or meeting. And as the city's notice stated for that one, the postponement, it was out of an abundance of caution with one individual that may have come in contact if people had been, communicating with that one individual for 15 minutes or longer, been in a very, so all the standards, components, that there was a possible, but we had not identified. We'd actually worked with the county to see if there were other cases, and to my knowledge, they had not contacted us back that there were any other individuals that have contracted it from that specific event. That window has closed basically as of that Wednesday. So it was, if somebody else came up with symptoms on Thursday or Friday, that was still possible. And to my knowledge, by the time the event took place, there's still, and even as of today, there has not been anybody else that has contracted COVID.
Okay, so I guess help me understand, there is a 2-week window that takes place. So that event was on the 29th. We're not out of the 2-week window yet.
So talking with the nurse and the staff over at the county health department, basically there's an incubation window where people potentially could come up with symptoms. And if they have any symptoms, again, as I would, I guess, assert with our staff and our council members, if anybody's not feeling well or having, and we've, had some of these issues with potentially somebody having allergies or even having some of the other viruses that have gone around. And if somebody does have that, first, don't come to the meeting. And from that point, I think it was a good point to note, because I'm not exactly sure if we did have an incident like tonight, how would we necessarily conduct business? We'd initially probably cancel the meeting and then have to kind of work through and address that. But that is a good point. If we did have an incident, how would we handle an outbreak to still be able to conduct business? Happy to look into that further. But our normal window, if there is somebody who is known to have COVID that has interacted with our staff, so they're quarantined and sequestered, compared to if we have anybody that has any potential symptoms. And so that's really that. By the time somebody who might have symptoms, that's where you're going to get tested 3 to 5 days after that possible exposure. So that's where we're past that, from the September 29th date to the October 6th date.
Okay, so have the people who attended, have our council people who have attended the DDA visioning session, were they tested within that 3 to 5 day period?
If they had symptoms, that would be the recommendation. My understanding is nobody, again, other than this one individual, nobody's told me that they had any symptoms.
Okay. Well, I still think that it was, we need to have a protocol in place for that. I still don't think it was appropriate that it did take place without it being public. And those that attended that signing were actually with the people that had been exposed to, the person who had COVID. So I think in all that it played out to where it was not right to have this event take place under those circumstances. So I don't appreciate it. For this lack of saying anything else, this is not good protocol to continually ignore something that has faced dramatic upset in our community in the past year and a half. So not all of us need to find out last minute or know that things are still taking place with people who have been exposed.
I'd just like to make the comment, to say we haven't reacted to COVID is just wrong. I and the staff put in a tremendous amount of work. It would have been much easier to go forward with the state of the city than to cancel it, but as the city manager said, out of an abundance of caution, we canceled it. And when I talked to all the council members, they were all in support. The county did not call any of the people who, myself and Mayor Pro Tem Salvia, it was an outdoor event. We were not contacted by the county. We were not having symptoms. So, I felt like it was safe to go. So, I think that, if there was a miscommunication on when it was, that's another issue. But to say that it was an unsafe event, I think is not true. And what are we doing here? We're doing the same thing. We're not up at the council chambers. We have the divide. We are sitting apart. So I think we're doing everything we can. And if there was a case, we would go back to Zoom meetings, if we had to. We react to it. So I think we're doing everything we can. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity. It feels like the perfect chance to say the best protection against COVID-19 is to get vaccinated. So if you haven't been vaccinated and you're able to please do that out of an abundance of caution for yourself and our fellow humans. I think it's the right move. So that's the greatest defense we have is vaccination.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
Yes, thank you. So the point was being missed, though, because of the fact that It wasn't about what the city has done. The city has done a tremendous job taking care of the things they needed to. This was about when you receive a phone call to tell you that something is being canceled, nothing is stated that you're going to continue signing and doing part of an event that was taking place the same night. So lack of communication, whatever you want to call it, that's fine. And however, whoever wants to get vaccinated, that comment there does not coincide with those that I am informed of that actually were vaccinated and still had COVID. So I want to make it clear that this is not the way we should be conducting business with a council under these circumstances. And I'll agree to disagree with you on that because it should have been noted when you made the phone call. Thank you.
What was noted?
You
There's
noted
nothing to
that
be
we were
noted.
canceling the state of the city, but you did not say you were canceling the signing of the agreement that was taking place an hour beforehand.
I did not say we were canceling because we were not canceling it.
Okay,
Correct.
well then, there was,
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
That was really poor leadership on that one.
Anything
council
further,
should have
Mr.
been
City
there.
Manager?
Nope, I'm good.
Madam Clerk?
I have a couple of items, Your Honor. Boards and commissions applications, I have received several for the library liaison position.
Good.
And Marilyn Trent has submitted one for the CBC. So what I'll do is forward all those applications to you this week, a week prior to your packet, so that you have some time to look at them. And then we'll make sure it's an agenda item on the next meeting for both of those boards. The other item, election related, we're up to 1,600 absentee ballots. The applications have slowed down, but I'm still getting about 20 or so a day. So over the next 3 weeks, we'll see how far that goes. Other than that, that's all I have, Your Honor.
Very good. Councilmember Albrecht?
On the boards and commissions, I know where it's getting more challenging to get volunteers, so when you sent out the notice, I cut and pasted and put it onto social media, so, I mean, we all have our networks, so anything we can do to, get some more volunteers for all these boards and commissions, I would recommend that, so.
I'd be happy to send that out through an email, so if it's easier for people to post on their social media as well as the link, happy to do that as well.
Very good. Also, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. City Attorney?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Banda, up there, any comments tonight?
I am all set, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Albrecht?
I mentioned it earlier, thank you for the city and the DDA. We had a table at the Sunrise Pinnacle Awards last week, and it was, as usual, they did a good job, but the highlight of the morning was Maggie Bobbitz was announced as the president of the regional, Rochester Regional Chamber, and everybody without cue stood up and applauded because, she's a great volunteer, has worked hard. She's loved by many, so congratulations, Maggie, and look forward to working with her, as I'm sure all of us in this room will.
Very good. Mayor Pro Tem Salvia?
Nothing else?
Councilmember Sage?
Nothing this evening, sir.
Councilmember Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to actually thank you for your leadership on canceling the state of the city. I do think it was the right decision. It was a really tough one to make, but I respect you in it. I hope that the person who was impacted by COVID-19 at the DDA Visioning Center session is all better and doing well. And I just want to congratulate Christy on the success of that event in terms of, policy and discussion. Obviously, it went really well. I was grateful that we were able to have it. I'm also grateful that we were able to attend the Pinnacle Awards, so congratulations to the Chamber on that, and congratulations to Maggie.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson?
Just two things. One, city manager, have we heard back on the census report yet? Did we get that back? Because I know the county did, and Oakland County is up 6% in population. And, because I had interviewed Dave Coulter today and had a great conversation of things that are happening in the county.
Nick, I think you saw, and I believe our number ended up being 13,035, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. Yep, we got our stuff.
So
Yep,
I'll
we're all
work
set.
with Nick to get that in this Friday's
And
manager's
it's in
report.
the master plan.
Right.
Yeah, it's in the master
It's been
plan.
updated.
Yeah.
Very detailed.
Yes. Councilmember Peterson?
No, it's fine, it wasn't about reading the master plan, it was about knowing the numbers and having it sent out separately, but that's fine. No, thank you.
Okay. I would also like to congratulate Maggie. She's been around a long time, makes every event is easy to work with. And it's nice to see somebody get promoted from within who's deserved it. So congratulations to Maggie. And then I'd just like to note that I've heard some feedback on the mural, which to me is finished. It looks great, and working in a combination with the PCCA, the city, the DDA, and the DIA. It's a great partnership, and I think that looks great, and I'm looking forward to more artwork like that around town and supporting our local artists. So I think that was a real win-win for the city. Councilmember Albright.
Sorry to delay this. When you mentioned that, this for the police chief, I know we had this vandalism that was here about a month ago, that we identified the two people. One was local and one was from out of state. And I think what I read was that the parents were going to have to pay for the cleanup and everything else. Is that happening? And is that, you know, the damage they done, has that been corrected, or is there plans for it to be corrected?
Chief, are you still there? Maybe not.
Yes, the person responsible has been charged, and we're working with the Public Works Department to get the clean up done, and then also cataloging the charges for restitution as that case proceeds through court.
Thank you.
Does that include the butterfly? Because the butterfly was.
Yes.
Oh, okay, because the butterfly was all written on too.
They did a thorough job of vandalism, so, but fortunately they were caught.
Yes.
So on that happy note that we caught the bad guys, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, let me see a picture of this bad boy.
Oh, sure.
You know,